Welcome to the Knitterville podcast. My name is Sarah, and this is episode number 7. And it is Friday, July 2nd, 2021. And I just wanted to welcome you to my podcast. This is a podcast primarily about knitting, although I do talk about some other aspects of my life and health. And yes, those two things in the background are new to us. That is Poppy and Sprout, our new little kittens. They're about 9.5 weeks old now, and they have made their way into our lives, and we absolutely love them. And their favorite thing to do is hang out in this basket of yarn. Normally it sits on the ground, sitting straight up, and they love to just sit in it and play with it. And of course, some of my pom-poms and things like that are in this bag that's very, very crinkly, and they love to just absolutely play with it and just have a grand old time in it. But they have this new little jungle gym we bought for them, and it's just too much fun watching them. I hope they get into naughty little things while we're recording today. But down to the knitting. So again, my name is Sarah. I live in the Sierra foothills here with my husband and my 2 kids. And so basically, welcome to the podcast. I hope you will subscribe and like my video today. And this is, so I'm Knitterville on Ravelry and the Knitterville on Instagram, which is where you may have seen some of my featured items that I'm going to be talking about today. But I'm happy to talk to you all about them here on my YouTube channel. So today, unfortunately, I have no finished objects, but I have whipped up a ton of whips. So we actually have 5 today, so I'm going to be talking about them. First, last time I podcast was just before June 1st, which is when the Crazy Sock Lady started her summer sock camp. So I was so eager to cast on some socks. And of course, you couldn't start casting on socks until June 1st if you wanted to count them as a part of the knit along and be entered into the drawings and contests and things like that. So I had already cast off my last pair of socks for Dina that I had featured in the last episode. And so I needed to put something on the needles for the last 2 days of the month of May. So I went ahead and cast on my first pair of scrappy socks. So I've never knit scrappy socks before, but I cast them on with Debbie Bliss Rialto yarn, which is right here. And of course, you can see that the the kittens have attacked the little yarn tag for this one. So basically, it's a couple of balls of Debbie Bliss Rialto and 1 ball of another style of sock yarn that I have. So here they are, and this is just the first sock that I cast on in those 2 days before I had to wait for summer sock camp to begin. So you can see that they are kind of a reddish purple and blue, and then a brownish cream color as well. So they're just a basic vanilla sock pattern, but I'm striping the yarn according to whatever I feel like, and this is how they're coming along. So basically that's what I got done in 2 days. But now that summer sock camp has started, these will be set aside until the end of sock camp, which is, I think, August 31st is the last day of it. So basically I'm using this ball, which is, see, it's starting to turn even a more orange color than the red that's in here, so it's variegated. And then, of course, the blue is my last little color here. So those will be set aside, like I said, until summer sock camp is over, and I can continue working on those later on. So that's whip number 1, and then whip number 2 is a vanilla sock pattern. Now, so these are a part of summer sock camp, which is started, like I said, on June 1st. So I cast these on June 1st, and I have 1 sock complete. So these are just a vanilla sock in the colorway Meteorite. And this is my yarn I purchased from Hobby Lobby, which I got sometime, I think, in May. You can't really see how bright and vivid those colors are, the rainbow colors. Oh, a little bit better with that light. But basically I got 1 sock completely done already, and I just love how the colorway is turning out. It's just adorable. It's got a this wonderful rainbow pattern to them, and then with the gray in the background, and I think it's just so gorgeous. And these will probably just be a pair of socks for me. So they are, ooh, so these have been in the sock bin, and I see that my friends, the kittens, or not the sock bin, the yarn bin back here, and I see that the kittens have, yeah, messed with them just a little tiny bit. Got some little strings hanging out, so I will have to fix that a little bit and make sure that they stay out of their little claws. And then I have a little tiny bit of a second sock finished now. So that's how far I got on those. And here's my ball of yarn. So fun stuff. So that's WIP number 2, and those again are just 64 stitches on size 2.25 US 1 millimeter ChiaoGoo circular needles. So that's WIP number 1. And actually, you saw that my WIP number 1 is on stitch holders because I only own 2 sock needles, or needles, yeah, two pairs of these ChiaoGoo circular needles in size 1. So I needed to use them for this one, and then also for my next sock, which is also a sock for summer sock camp, and so this is it. So these are just absolutely stunning. I love this yarn. So it is Malabrigo sock yarn, and this is what it looks like in the cake. So I'm about half finished. I have this sock, and then I have just a cuff of the second sock. So this pattern is actually from the Crazy Sock Lady. So apparently if you knit one of her patterns, you get a second entry into the prizes if you post a finished pair of socks using her sock pattern. So this is called Whispers in the Wind socks, and so I've used 64 stitches again, which is what she calls for in the pattern. It's a size medium, and then it has this just gorgeous little pattern, which is super simple, and you're only doing it on front, so it's mindless, of course, in the back where you're just doing stockinette stitch. And then she's got the normal slip stitch heel, and then normal heel flap and gusset there, and then Kitchener stitch for the last 8 stitches on each side of the toe. So super fun, and really easy because of course it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to tell you all the details of it, but it's really quite neat how it how you perform these patterns, because you're really just doing this kind of 5x2 rib up to here, and then doing this kind of garter stitch for a few rows, and then crossing some stitches there. But it turns out so cute when it gets stretched out, because those little crosses, those little cables stretch out and make little X's, and I just thought that turned out so adorable. And then I think you're supposed to do a so it's a 1x1 rib, and you do a twisted rib for it, and so it turns out, actually I take that back. The pattern is not a 1x1 rib. It is different. It's supposed to go a little bit more in sequence with what the pattern is, but I wasn't reading it correctly, so I did a 1x1 rib, and then I just stuck with it because I thought, it looks fine. So this is not what it calls for in the pattern at the ribbing, but again, I thought it looked fine, so I continued with it. So there's my first sock, and then I've got, just like I said, a little tiny bit of my second sock. And then, because I was watching my podcasts and YouTube recommended another podcast for me to watch, I started watching it one day, and it is called Ninja Chickens. So, and for some reason it showed me like episode 45. I have no idea why. It must have been a popular episode, but I tuned in and I started watching it. I really liked it. A lady who's really into natural dyeing. She held classes prior to COVID and about teaching into her dye workshops and things like that. And then she has a beautiful garden, and she's got these chickens. And anyway, she knit this sweater for her son, who at the time, which was like 4 years ago, was 8 years old, and that's how old my son is. So she knit this great sweater, and it's called Jarur. I have no idea if that's the way to pronounce it, but it's Jarur by by, let's see, what did I put? Vedis Jónsdóttir. So it's a Icelandic pattern, but it's in English, and it's called, the yarn's called for in there is the Letlopi, with the by Istex. But I had this feeling. Okay, so I looked at the yarn online, and I had this feeling that because it was 100% wool and it's not twisted, that it might be just too delicate for my son. I wanted something I could machine wash, machine dry. I mean, 8-year-olds, they get into dirt and all this kind of stuff. So and the reason why I wanted to knit it for my son was because the pattern that the Ninja Chickens gal knit had a very unique change to the yoke, because the yoke is a more traditional Icelandic yoke sweater, and her version of it, it has the normal like pattern at the top where it's some diamonds and some other little patterns up here, but at the bottom she has this these swords, and she calls them Minecraft swords. And as most people know, little boys are super into Minecraft these days, or most little boys are, it seems like. I know my son is very much into Minecraft, and so she created this 10-stitch repeat of this sword that you could do at the bottom of the yoke, and I showed it to my son, which, I mean, I knew what was going to happen. He immediately says, I want that sweater, but he didn't want it in red. So she had done hers as a red body, and he said he wanted his in a different color. So we chose blue as the body, and before I keep talking about it, let me show you. So here is the body. So this is as much as I have done for the body. So this is the sweater, and it starts out with a 1x1 rib at the bottom, and it's done with the smaller needles in the pattern, which I won't tell about because it is a paid-for pattern. And then it continues up with these little diamonds in there, and it actually is supposed to have one of these blue stitches in between each diamond coming into the black part, but I wasn't reading the pattern correctly, and I just knit a whole black round and then continued with a blue round. So that's how it went. And because I don't own a pair of 7-inch or size 7 US 7 needles, I ended up purchasing a pair of 7-inch needles, which is now on the second sleeve. So I have one sleeve I finished last week, and here is the second sleeve. So I'm nearly done, which I'm so excited about. This weekend I am dying to start the yoke for this, which of course will be, so basically kind of looks like this, and then you continue the yoke with the sword first. So this is, I'm gonna hold it right close to the screen so you can really see it, but it's, this is knit in the yarn that I had done the potato chip scarf for my sister-in-law, which I still haven't finished. It's a whip that's in that basket right there, but it is Plymouth Yarns, and it's called Encore. It's a worsted weight yarn. It's 75% acrylic, 25% wool, so it's definitely not itchy for the little guy, but it's going to be a little warm because it does have some wool in it, and he really wanted me to finish it before he went to his last day of summer school. However, today was the last day of summer school, and I told him, it's going to be way too hot, you're not going to want to wear it. He says, no, I promise I'll wear it. But no, I didn't finish it, and I kind of felt like I didn't want to pressure him to wear it, even though he really wanted to wear it in summer school and he wanted to show his buddies. So, oh well, he'll get to wear it in the fall, I hope, I know he'll wear it, because I'm knitting the size 10. It comes in size 8, 10, 12, and 14, I think. So it's definitely designed for a younger person, not a full-grown person, and not babies. So anyway, that is how far I am right now, and so this is just holding on. This is where I am with my new needles that I bought at my local yarn shop. So I actually got all of this yarn at my local yarn shop, Lofty Lou's, here in Placerville. So they're always so helpful down there, and they were thrilled to help me pick all my yarn up. So I basically bought a sweater's quantity. So I've already gone through 2 whole balls of blue. This is the last of my second ball of blue to get to this point, and then I have the rest of my colors. So I have 1 more ball of blue, which I think I will need because part of the yolk has a little bit of blue in it. And then we have, of course, the yellow, which I don't have out here, and then the green will be the emeralds, because of course Minecraft has to do with mining. So the idea is all of these little jewels are the jewels in Minecraft. So he's got some gold for the swords, and then he's got emeralds, and we've got the blue for, I guess, sapphires, and it will all look very, very cute. I can't wait to show you the finished product. However, actually I didn't bring it. Whip number 5. That's funny. I will have to pause right here and restart in a moment. All right, so I did find the other ball of yarn that was from Encore for the sweater that are the little jewels right here. Look at those cats. They haven't even moved. Normally they're the most playful kittens ever, but actually it's probably better if they're sleeping. It's not distracting me. So my last whip is a shawl. So basically I'm knitting away on the sweater, and then in the fall, I will be going to what's called the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl. It's their 3rd annual. Of course, last year's got canceled. However, they did it as a virtual yarn crawl. But 3 years ago was the first one. And basically what they do is they go to several yarn shops that are located in the area in the Sierra Nevada mountains here. And this is the yarn shops that they visited in the year 2020. So of course they did all these virtually. So I got this bag from my local yarn shop when I got the sweater quantity of yarn for my son's sweater. And so basically here's Lofty Lou's, which is my local yarn shop, and then we travel around the mountains and visit. I think we go to Auburn Needleworks next, and then these other places, including Jimmy Bean Wools and these other different little places. So I'm really excited because I'm planning to join this year. It's September 16th to the 19th. And so basically we caravan, we meet up at Lofty Lou's to begin, and we caravan around the Sierra Nevada mountains and go to all these yarn shops over those 3 days. So as a part of the yarn crawl, they have a knit along. Oh, here comes my son. So I'm going to have to pause again because I'm coming to the door, the dog's going to start barking. So this is the yarn for the shawl again, and this is my shawl so far. So basically it's got a front and a back, which I've labeled or kind of indicated with my little stitch marker here. You can barely see it, but basically it's a triangular shaped shawl, and it's got a straight edge and then this growing edge, and right now it's just a bunch of garter stitch which keeps growing and growing. And I basically knit this completely on Saturday, which was 6 days ago. And so that's how far I got in one day. We drove up the mountains and went to Lake Kirkwood last Saturday. So I made this on the drive there. My son was actually very disappointed I was not working on his sweater as we drove up there, but I was so eager to cast this on that I just had to do it. And it's the most gorgeous feeling yarn. So it is again Lisa Souza, and she does her hand-dyed hand-dyed yarns. So there's her logo there, and it's 65% merino and 35% bamboo, 100 grams and 500 yards. So that is the yarn that I'm using for this. And then, so that colorway is this colorway is garnet. And then it actually is, because it's called Emerald Bayshot, it's supposed to look like some waves. And so my other color is kind of a lavendery purple color. So basically once I get done with this garter section, I'll have these kind of wave sections and then back to garter. So it's kind of these different sections of garter and these waves. So I'm really excited about this and can't wait to continue working on it. So since the yarn crawl isn't until September, I've got plenty of time on this, but I really wanted to cast it on to see what it would look like. And I absolutely just love the texture. And this is on, now I was knitting this on my circular needles, and because the sleeve of my son's sweater is also in the same size needles, I had to switch over and start his sleeve in this. So these are sitting on my straight needles, which I don't normally use. I have a ton of straight needles. I mean, probably 200 straight needles I've received from people over the years. But I don't like straight needles. I like circular needles because then the weight of the garment or the item is not weighing down your hands. Now, if I knew how to knit like the Yarn Harlot, Stephanie Pearl McPhee, and hold it under my arm and knit like this, I could use straight needles. However, I don't know how to knit like that. I wish I did, because apparently it is for making things happen. It is like the fastest way to knit. I've seen her videos of people like recording her knitting at different events, and she is turbo fast. Oh my goodness. So anyway, that's my last whip, whip number 5, and that's my Emerald Bay shawl. So I got that yarn again at Lofty Lou's, my local yarn shop. So that's it for my whips, and those also were my acquisitions. The sweater quantity of yarn from Plymouth Yarns, and then the 2 balls of yarn by Lisa Souza, and that was it. And then, of course, the size 7 circular needle that was Chapu. However, I do have one more ball of yarn that it was an acquisition, but it is not for me. This is for my daughter. She has decided that she would like to learn how to knit some socks, and this was in the discount bin at Lofty Lou's. So she picked it up and said, "Mom, can you please teach me how to knit a pair of socks?" So perhaps we'll see a whip of hers soon on this podcast, and I will share that with you. But in the meantime, it's still in the ball right here. So anyway, that's what's going on here in the Sierra Nevada foothills. And still attending my weekly appointments for photophoresis down in Sacramento, but things are going all right with that. Things are kind of leveling out. I'm not seeing any real improvements anymore, but hopefully keeping the GVHD away, so I'm not getting any further complications from it. So that's basically what's going on in my life. But I'm excited about all of my whips right now. I want to finish them all right away, and actually I cannot wait, like I said, to do the yoke, start the yoke of the sweater this weekend. It is #1 priority right now, because I just cannot wait to see how it knits up. It's going to be like 200 stitches on my needle, so really looking forward to putting all those together and really getting into the color work. I've never knit a yoke sweater before, so I'm really excited about that, and I hope you all have a good long weekend. I have the Monday off because of the holiday here in the US. Just sipping on some water today. But anyway, I hope you have a nice long weekend and happy knitting. All right, back to business. So basically, as part of the yarn crawl, they have a knit along or a crochet along. You can do either or. And so they have 2 different shawl patterns. So I'm making the Emerald Bay shawl. And so I only have one of the balls. I'm not sure where my other ball went already. I only purchased it the other day. But basically, this is a hand-dyed yarn by